Thank you for joining our video on how to study with better metacognition. I'm going to begin with this quote. If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you're right. Now, I have absolute and complete faith that everyone in this course can excel. It is set up for your success. The problem is that not everyone has had the same advantages in life to learn how to study. As you go through this course, you cannot use the same tactics that you did in high school. How well you do is contingent upon how you prepare each week. As you read through the information on metacognition, hopefully you were able to see the connection between the effort that you put into studying and how well you are prepared to handle higher level cognitive assessments. In high school, you may have only approached your studying in a surface level because, well, they only required you to recall information that you had memorized. In college, however, we have much higher expectations, though I'm not sure anyone has showed you how that works. In order for you to handle higher level cognitive questions that require you to analyze, evaluate, and create, you must study in a way that prepares you for that. You must study with a deep learning approach. If you continue to simply memorize or wait until the last minute to cram everything in before an exam, you will only be able to answer questions that ask you to recall the information you memorized. For example, we could ask you a question like, what is the deficiency syndrome for vitamin C? If you memorize deficiency syndromes for the vitamins, you could tell me that the answer is scurvy. However, you would not be able to answer this question. A patient presents with swollen bleeding gums due to a vitamin deficiency. What foods should they consume to correct this deficiency? This question requires that you know multiple facts that you must assimilate. These types of questions require you to study in a different way, and this is the deep learning approach. It requires you to ask questions while you read, make connections with other parts that you are reading, investigate things that don't make sense, and understand the reason behind things. To help you develop these skills, we have included some metacognitive notes for you to use with each section that you study. You will find these notes in each module just under the module overview. These notes are Word documents. You simply need to click on the link. You can download the notes and type into them or print the pages and handwrite your notes. The metacognition notes begin with the learning outcomes for each section. These are super important because this is what determines the questions we ask on exams. All the test questions come back to these learning outcomes. After reading the learning outcomes, scroll down to the section called Connections. Here you will fill in the 4 blocks. The first block asks what you already know. So you may have been reading through the learning outcomes and recognize my plate and the food groups. So you'll jot that down there. In the block to the right, you should write down how you feel about this topic. Maybe you feel a little anxious because you did not recognize some of the terms in the learning outcomes. Or maybe you're excited because you want to know more about reading food labels. In the third box, you enter relationships and connections. Maybe you recall your biology teacher talking about processed foods when you discussed the macronutrients, and that this was an unhealthy approach. You record those connections in that third box. Then in the last block, you write down questions. As you read through the learning outcomes, there were probably things you didn't recognize. Write down what questions you have. Maybe something like, what is an essential nutrient? What is the difference between energy dense and nutrient dense? What is the DRI? Now it's time to read the content and take notes. The metacognition notes have 2 columns. On the left is where you write down connections. Maybe as you're reading you don't understand why fat is considered high on the label in the same way that vitamin C is. Or maybe you remember reading an article about processing that connects with what you are reading. Jot down these points. On the right side, take your key points from your reading and write those down. Keep in mind the connections questions that you had in the previous boxes. As you read the material, find the answers to the questions that you had and include those in your notes. Finally, you will write 2 to 3 sentences that summarize the key concepts that you read in the section. Now, I know this may seem like a lot of work, but trust me when I tell you that it is critical for you to develop these skills if you want to be successful at the next set level. The note documents were created as a tool to help develop your skills.